Good morning, everybody. I am driving to grab my MRI results from Friday. Work-related injury, left knee. Been dealing with it now for right at about a month, almost a month. Gotta get the results and take it out to the doctor. Anyway, I had a question asked last night. The question was, what was my experience like at Universal Technical Institute? For the most part, it was a really good experience. Now, if you want me to be brutally honest with you about the whole entire experience, here we go. When I went to UTI, I had already had, several years in the field. I was a little bit seasoned, but not like I should have been. I knew enough to get by and work on vehicles and be confident, but not as confident as I needed to be to really work on vehicles, if you know what I mean. So the enrollment process was pretty easy, and going through getting signed up and getting my books and stuff and all that was pretty easy. And then you get to your course 1 class. Well, let's wait a second. The programs I picked when I first enrolled was automotive, diesel, Ford, and international. Yes, international, like over-the-road trucks. So I picked the bigger program for international, the MSAT program, the manufacturer-specific absolute training program, because it was longer and you left with more certifications. And then I picked the Ford FACT program instead of the ITAP program, because the FACT program was longer and you left with more certifications. The Ford Accelerated Credential Training Program. And I remember my first instructor, Mr. AJ Sadeh. What an amazing person. See, Mr. Sadeh had been living with cancer or some kind of illness like that most people didn't know about. And he was such a powerful Course 1 instructor because of the love and the kindness and stuff that he had in his heart for people in general and teaching. He was just a wonderful person. Never made you feel uncomfortable. Never talked like he had a chip on his shoulder or anything like that. Always was always left room for questions whenever he would talk about things, and never made people feel like they were less than him, even though in all honesty we are. I mean, he was just a brilliant man. I think he had like an old Buick. He had an old Buick from back in the day that I think it was LS swapping it, but he didn't just LS. It was like it wasn't a 5.3, it was like a 5.7 out of like a Firehawk or something like that, or a Firebird, and there were only specific years. And he bragged about his wife buying him this thing, and he went with like upgraded suspension and wheelwood brakes and stuff like that, and just was just an amazing person. He had I think it was a Pontiac was it a Grand Prix or Grand Am, and it had that front wheel drive V8 setup in it. I don't know what it was. It was the one that had I think you could get it with like a 5.3 or something like that. Anyhow, he really enjoyed cars. I remember the first question he asked us as a class. He said, how many of you think you know or do know what the W in 5W30 stands for? Raise your hand. Well, all these people raised their hand and stuff like that, and he picked some random person. Luckily it wasn't me, because I would have got it wrong. So I thought it was 5 weight 30, something like that. I knew that the 5 meant for wintertime and the 30 meant for summertime, but I didn't know that the W actually stood for winter. And that's what it stands for. 5 winter, 30 summer, 5W30. Or 5 cold, 30 warm. He taught me that. And I thought I knew quite a bit, but there was a lot of basics that I was lacking. And then you go to other classes like, in course 1, you'll learn your basic stuff. You'll learn about engines and how they function and what things are called and things of this nature. In course 2, you might have like some kind of electrical thing or something like that you're learning. They have beginner electric, advanced electric. They have a lot of classes have 1- and 2-step programs to get through that class, because it's quite a lot about the basics that you should know to be able to understand exactly what's going on. And I mean, the modules were great. You had in lab, testing and paper tests and physical tests. A lot of equipment. They have a hot rod class there that I went in. It was the beginning of the hot rod class, and then there was the advanced portion of it where you actually build a hot rod. You're ripping the engine apart. You're learning how to hone and crosshatch properly, set valve lash, play with different machines that do different angle valve jobs, look at flow meters and stuff on how things flow in relation to stock versus having some work done to a set of heads and things like that. Our project car in hot rod was we picked a like 2011 or 12 or something like that, 6.2 liter Camaro SS. And they wanted to take us through the different types of modifications and then go down to the dyno and do live testing to figure out what those modifications did. And you could see a full $1,200 exhaust system made the car sound great, but it didn't make it perform any better. The factory exhaust was actually pretty free-flowing enough to where aftermarket exhaust didn't help it. Then we pulled the exhaust back off, and I think at that time it made like 360 horse to the wheels and 375 foot-pounds of torque or something like that. And then we went back and we put a throttle body spacer on it, and we gained about 6 horsepower and like 5 foot-pounds of torque. And then we took that off, and then we put K&N cold air, like full stage 3 type box where it's all enclosed and it's a true K&N. I think we ended up getting like 11 horse and like 10 foot-pounds of torque or something like that out of that. And then we put the two together and we ended up with like 15 or 16 horsepower overall and like 19 foot-pounds of torque we gained. And then we put the exhaust on with that combo, and now that everything on the upper end was free-flowing, the exhaust was able to make a difference now, and we ended up getting like an extra 5 or 6 horsepower with the exhaust and an extra like 9 foot-pounds of torque on top of it. So now we're at 390-ish somewhere horsepower and 380 some foot-pounds of torque or whatever it may be. I don't know the numbers exactly. Then we had the option. Do you want to run nitrous? You want to run a fogger kit, or do you want to run like a wet kit or something like that? And I think we chose the fogger kit because we had to put these plates and stuff on the throttle body, and we ran the vehicle with all the mods together, everything, and we ended up with like on 100 shot we ended up at like 450 horsepower. No, I take that back. It wasn't. It was like 550 horsepower and like 560 foot-pounds of torque or 570 foot-pounds of torque. That 100 shot gave us quite a bit with those mods, and it was screaming pretty good. And that engine loved it, absolutely loved it. And a lot of the guys were scared to drive the car because it was a manual on the dyno, but I let her rip, and it was just an awesome experience. Learned about mapping turbos and how a lean condition can actually create more power, but not efficiently, but more power than a rich condition, things of this nature. More BTUs being basically generated and stuff like that. And then you had your heavy duty stuff, your diesel stuff. Like we were doing truck brakes, we were doing diesel teardown stuff, we were learning all about Jake brakes and setting valve lash and stuff like that, and going through the Cummins Insight programs and stuff online, and working on old DT 444s and 444Es and 466? Was it a 466? Old ISX, ISBs, ISMs, the old 7 Series Cat and stuff like that, and learning that Caterpillar uses a 8-volt reference versus a 5-volt reference for their APP signal and stuff. Just tons and tons and tons of training in general. But the highlight of everything is when I got down to the Ford and the International program, directly being trained by their instructors for the school. It was an absolute just eye-opening step up from everything that you learned, and then they take you and they make you even better. You really get into the programs for the manufacturer. You really, really, really get into the programs of how Ford wants things diagnosed, International wants things diagnosed, and you really get to experience what it's like to operate those programs, to be in a lab with specialized trainers and stuff like that, to see all the functions of what you can do in programming and stuff. It was very, very, very nice. Very nice training. The specified specific training at the end, the very manufacturer specific type training at the end of the whole UTI thing was just absolutely phenomenal. That's the icing on the cake. The instructors were nice. A lot of them were young. A lot of them, they're still learning how to be instructors and how to be better and stuff. A lot of them have, were only in the field for so many years, like 6-7 years, and I think some of them were already at the school level teaching. ASC certified guys. You're going to meet old guys that are just a-holes. You're going to have that. They're good teachers, but you have to look past their stubbornness and stuff. They're just jerks in general. They have a lot of bad old school ways of explaining things, and sometimes you feel like you're being talked down to. I got to a point where I would just go up to them and be honest with them and say, hey, you're being a jerk right now. You need to relax. Okay? And they would honestly let you communicate with them like that, because this is not, some woke snowflake school that you're going to. This is a school of men that are in the trades and stuff like that, and they appreciate your honesty about things. So I went up to several teachers and said, hey, fucking knock it off, man. Seriously, being a jerk today. I don't know if you had a bad day when you woke up or whatever, but knock it off. It's affecting everybody else in the class, and they were receptive to it. Of course, there is favoritism and stuff that goes on as well. There is a little inner working drama and stuff like that may happen between teachers and stuff that don't get along with each other, but you'll have that. You'll have that anywhere you go, any job you go to. Just overall, the experience at Universal Technical Institute was just by far one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. And it was just, I love it. I love it. I love seeing the instructors work with the students and interact with them and teach them. I love seeing almost all the guys that applied themselves. I would say if you had a class, let's just say 20 people, 25 people, you might have 5 or 6 people that didn't make it out of that class, but most people had some type of job or something to go to when they applied themselves. I ended up getting my 609 certification through them. I ended up with, I think, 100 and some certifications through Ford, and about, I think it was 150 or 160 certifications through Ford, and like another 200 or something certifications with International. And then overall, I think with all my training over the years since having UTI to where I am now, I think I've got like 450 certifications total in all the different categories and stuff like that. So UTI was a great experience. And then when I left UTI, I didn't go right to Ford. I went to they had a program set up where if I found a dealer that I wanted to go work at, which I went out to Ottawa, Illinois, back when it used to be Rush Truck Centers out there, but before them I think it was like Chicago International, and before that it was somebody else. They agreed to bring me on board and pay for the MSAT program. So they went ahead and paid the MSAT program to International, and I was guaranteed to them for like $19 an hour for a year at the time. That's because they paid all that money up front, and I was a new guy. I had to prove myself. So I came in as a transmission, driveline, suspension guy. So I'm doing kingpins, pulling transmissions, manual, automatic, belly vac or whatever, or what some of you might call, or the shit suckers that have the big, like, so many thousand series. I don't know if it's like a 4,000 or 9,000 series transmission in it, and you're pulling those Allisons out of there. They're just freaking absolutely massive, and the automatic manual type clutch systems and stuff like that. They're very big and very heavy. That's how I started out. I didn't start out as a tire guy or anything else. I started out right in transmission work. I'm pulling transmissions, pulling clutches, setting up clutches, rebuilding rear ends, rebuilding front ends and stuff like that. I was a driveline suspension specialist is what I did. A lot of the old timers, they didn't want to do that stuff anymore. They said, take that new young guy. He's a big, young, healthy guy. Take him. Put him out there. Let him do it. And that's what they did. They put me out there, and they got me right on the driveline stuff and transmission stuff right away. So if you see some of my earlier videos, it's about suspension and transmission work. Some of you don't even know that, but if you go back far enough, you can find some of my other videos where I talk about adjusting clutches and pulling Allison transmissions and doing suspension work and how to look and be able to diagnose where your issues are coming from. So that was how I started my career. And there's much more after that, but that doesn't have to do with UTI. But UTI helped me get in that program, and I don't know, man, it's just awesome. And then before I even left the program, they were having they had job people that wanted to fly me out to Texas to meet at the international medium duty, like over the road truck Ford type center out there. I could have went and worked out there at an international and Ford facility together. They wanted me out there pretty bad. They were going to fly me out there, interview with me and stuff. At the time, I was the only student in the class that had that opportunity. There was another guy that they were going to fly out to another facility, and we were kind of the ones that excelled, but they wanted to interview with us and stuff like that. And I kept thinking to myself, do I want to be that far away? I just came back home a few years ago, and now I'm going to leave all over again. I should have left. I should have went to Texas, but then I wouldn't have the life that I have now, which I'm very thankful for. It happens. But at the time, had I not known what I know now, I should have left. I should have went and did it. It's the largest medium-duty truck center in the entire world in Texas. Rush Enterprises. But it is what. But that's my Universal Technical Institute story, and I just wanted to share that with you guys because somebody asked me to really go through it. I really like the program. I really like the advanced diagnostics with electronics, the basic stuff, basic engines. When we got into fuel injection and stuff like that with diesels, and talking about shock load and different types of transmission failures and clutch failures and stuff like that, and how they actually put us in these trucks and these modules, had us taking apart rear ends and rebuilding them in the big over-the-road trucks with Mr. Williams, AJ Sadeh, and Gravit, Chafin, and it's just some of the people that I remember there. Julie Mueller, I think she's the president of the school. My dad was the financial director at the time, Mr. Stanzik. And Ron, one of the recruiters there that I met, and I've done some work for him personally after all these years. And just to go from somebody that had nothing to now having my own home and 5 cars and my own personal shop that I rent out, and having the life that I live now, being a social media influencer and helping people all over the world and trying to mentor. It's a journey, man. This program can literally take you anywhere. You just have to make it what you want it to be. Y'all be blessed. Take care. Thank you. And thanks to UTI and programs like UTI, WyoTech, Lincoln Tech, Universal Technical Institute. Really appreciate these types of schools. I wish more people would put more effort into going to these types of schools, because it's really where you learn the most at. A lot of people come out of college and they never use those degrees or anything at all. A lot of people go to these programs and they use everything that they get plus some. But you got to apply yourself. You can't go there thinking that it's going to be a big college party. You have to apply yourself and want to do something with yourself. There's quite a few people that end up using it as a adult babysitting camp, and the majority of people want to do something with themselves, but there's a small percent that they just take it as they don't know what they want to do, so their parents are wasting their money and time even sending them there. But you don't know that until you try, right? Y'all be blessed. Take care and have a great day. I love y'all.